The story opens in a busy traditional courtroom filled with a low hum of murmurs from the public gallery. The atmosphere is tense and charged with anticipation as everyone awaits the next case to be called. At the center of the room stands a young black woman, visibly distressed, her hands trembling slightly as she faces the judge's bench. Her eyes are red and swollen from crying, and her voice quivers as she speaks, trying to make herself heard over the stern gavel and the low murmur of the room. She is there for a deeply personal reason, perhaps a custody battle, a wrongful accusation, or a civil rights dispute. The exact details of her case are not yet fully revealed, but her emotional state signals the gravity of what she's enduring. Her words come out haltingly but passionately. She pleads for fairness, understanding, or justice. She speaks not only for herself but for the principle of right versus wrong, hoping the law will listen. However, the judge presiding over the case is a middle-aged man known for his rigid demeanor and lack of patience with emotional displays, especially from defendants or plaintiffs who don't fit his ideal image of professionalism. His expression is cold, and there is a dismissive tone in his voice that cuts through the courtroom like a sharp knife. When the woman begins to cry, openly overwhelmed by the pressure and the stakes, the judge scoffs and unexpectedly laughs. This laugh is not one of humor, but a derisive mocking sound that echoes throughout the courtroom. The judge's chuckle undercuts the woman's vulnerability and instantly changes the mood. Gasps ripple through the audience, and even her own lawyer looks taken aback. The judge's laughter suggests he sees her tears as weakness, maybe even as an attempt to manipulate the court, rather than a genuine expression of anguish. This moment is crucial because it exposes the deep prejudice and systemic bias embedded within the justice system. The judge's reaction reflects an institutional blindness to the struggles and humanity of those who don't fit his preconceived notions. His laughter is a dismissal of pain that many in the courtroom, especially those from marginalized communities, have felt before but rarely see challenged. The woman's tears flow freely now, not just from sadness but from frustration and humiliation. She struggles to regain composure but feels small and invisible in the face of such open disdain. The courtroom is silent but charged with tension. The spectators, some sympathetic, some indifferent, watch as a clear imbalance of power unfolds. Her lawyer tries to interject, perhaps attempting to remind the judge of courtroom decorum or to redirect the proceedings back to the facts. But the judge waves off the objection, signaling that he is firmly in control and unconcerned with empathy or understanding. The woman's emotional state becomes a focal point, used by the judge to undermine her credibility rather than to understand the root causes of her distress. This opening scene sets the tone for the entire story. It highlights themes of injustice, racial bias, and the struggle to be heard within a rigid system. It creates immediate sympathy for the woman and establishes the judge as an antagonist figure who underestimates her strength. The courtroom becomes a symbolic battleground not just for the case at hand, but for dignity, respect, and the right to be treated fairly. In these opening moments, the audience is primed to root for the woman while also feeling the oppressive weight of systemic power. The judge's laugh is more than just an act of cruelty. It is a trigger that will set in motion the story's dramatic turn when an unexpected figure enters and challenges the status quo. The courtroom and plunges into the personal life and history of the young black woman who broke down in tears in the previous scene. This section is crucial because it humanizes her beyond the vulnerable figure seen in court, allowing the audience to understand the depth of her struggles and the reasons behind her emotional state. We begin by exploring her upbringing and environment. Perhaps she grew up in a tough neighborhood where opportunities were scarce and systemic racism was a daily reality. From a young age, she learned to navigate a world where she was often judged by the color of her skin rather than her character or potential. The narrative reveals small but telling details, moments of exclusion in school, subtle biases from authority figures, and the constant need to prove herself in a society stacked against her. Her backstory also touches on the family dynamics that have shaped her. Maybe she is a single mother fighting to provide a better life for her child, working multiple jobs to make ends meet. Or she might be caring for an ill parent while struggling to keep her own dreams alive. These challenges add layers of complexity to her character, showing her resilience despite the heavy burdens she carries. The flashbacks reveal pivotal moments that led her to the courtroom. For instance, she might have been falsely accused of a crime or unfairly targeted by the legal system because of racial profiling. Alternatively, she could be battling for custody of her child against a system that is prejudiced against her due to her background. These moments are emotionally charged and serve to explain why the case means so much to her. It's not just about legal technicalities, but about her identity, dignity, and future. Throughout this section, the woman's inner strength and determination are highlighted. Despite the hardships, she refuses to be defined by the negative label society has placed on her. We see her moments of quiet courage, standing up for herself at work, supporting her community, or advocating for other marginalized people. This backstory builds empathy and respect, painting her as a multifaceted person with hopes, fears, and dreams. Importantly, this part contrasts sharply with the judge's dismissive laughter in the courtroom. While the judge saw only a crying woman, the audience now sees someone who has endured immense hardship with grace and fortitude. The emotional tears in court are no longer signs of weakness but symbols of the deep pain caused by injustice. The narrative also hints at the woman's support system: friends, family members, or community leaders who believe in her and stand behind her. This network will play a role later in the story, particularly when the unexpected figure enters the courtroom. It shows that she is not alone and that her fight resonates beyond just herself. By the end of this part, the audience is fully invested in her journey. They understand that the courtroom battle is part of a much larger fight against systemic inequality and personal hardship. This backstory sets the emotional stakes high and prepares the audience for the dramatic shifts that will come when the story returns to the courtroom. In sum, Part 2 enriches the story by providing context, depth, and humanity to the protagonist. It transforms her from a moment of vulnerability in court into a symbol of resilience, making the injustice she faces all the more poignant and real. The atmosphere in the courtroom, thick with tension and injustice, suddenly shifts with the entrance of an unexpected figure. This arrival disrupts the judge's condescending attitude and begins to turn the tide in favor of the young black woman. As the judge continues his dismissive remarks and laughter, the courtroom door swings open dramatically. The sound of footsteps echoes against the high walls, drawing immediate attention. All eyes, including those of the judge, snap toward the entrance in surprise and curiosity. The crowd murmurs with a mixture of anticipation and confusion. Who could this person be, and why are they arriving at such a critical moment? The figure steps into the room with unmistakable presence, someone whose authority, reputation, or connection to the case instantly commands respect. This could be a variety of characters depending on the story's tone and message. A high-profile civil rights attorney, a well-known community leader, a family member with influential standing, or even a respected public official. Their identity is both unexpected and significant, setting the stage for a dramatic shift in power dynamics. The arrival feels almost cinematic, as if the narrative itself pauses to highlight this moment of hope and justice about to unfold. This person's entrance is not just physical but symbolic. It represents the arrival of truth, accountability, or support that had been missing in the courtroom. Upon entering, the newcomer quickly assesses the situation. They see the judges, inappropriate behavior, the woman's distress, and the silent tension gripping the courtroom. Without hesitation, this figure moves to intervene, signaling a challenge to the established order. Their presence is a form of immediate validation for the woman, showing that she is not invisible or powerless. The judge, initially caught off guard, tries to maintain control but finds it difficult to ignore the authority of this new arrival. There is a palpable shift in the room's energy as respect and attention pivot away from the judge's derision to the newcomer's commanding presence. The courtroom spectators, once silent and uneasy, now watch with renewed interest and hope. New arrival might speak firmly, addressing the judge directly or requesting a moment to present critical information. They could reveal evidence overlooked by the court or testify to the woman's character and circumstances, forcing the judge to reconsider his dismissive stance. This intervention interrupts the judge's narrative and lays the groundwork for a fairer hearing. This part of the story emphasizes the importance of allies and advocates in battles against injustice. The woman's fight, while deeply personal, gains strength through the support of someone who can influence the legal process and shine a light on the truth. It also highlights how entrenched power structures can be challenged by unexpected forces. When the right people step forward, the tension remains high, but there is now an undercurrent of optimism. The judge's laughter and condescension no longer dominate the scene. Instead, respect and seriousness start to return to the courtroom. The young woman's tears, once mocked, begin to symbolize the resilience and hope that this new figure represents. In essence, Part 3 is the dramatic turning point where the story's power balance shifts. The unexpected arrival serves as the catalyst that will drive the rest of the narrative toward justice and resolution, showing that even in moments of despair, change can come from the most surprising places. The courtroom dynamics fundamentally change, marking a significant shift in power and control. The unexpected arrival from Part 3 steps forward, and with authority and clarity challenges the judge's dismissive behavior toward the crying black woman. This part is crucial because it begins to dismantle the judge's earlier arrogance and forces a confrontation with the reality he tried to ignore. As the newcomer addresses the court, their voice commands immediate attention. The judge, who until now held the room in an iron grip, now faces someone who refuses to be intimidated or sidelined. This figure may begin by reminding the court of its responsibility to uphold fairness and justice rather than mock vulnerability or dismiss valid grievances. Their tone is firm but respectful, designed to expose the judge's bias without directly insulting him, thereby preserving the courtroom's dignity while holding the judge accountable. What follows is the revelation of critical information or evidence that the judge had overlooked or deliberately ignored. This could take various forms depending on the story's specifics: a legal precedent that supports the woman's case, newly surfaced evidence proving her innocence, or even a personal testimony that highlights her character and the unjust circumstances she faces. This information serves as an undeniable reminder that justice must not be swayed by prejudice or personal contempt. The courtroom atmosphere begins to change visibly. The judge, confronted with facts and the presence of a powerful advocate, becomes noticeably unsettled. His earlier laughter and condescension give way to a more guarded and serious demeanor. He may try to maintain control by insisting on formal procedures, but it becomes clear that his authority is being questioned. The audience, lawyers, and spectators watch this shift with a mix of surprise and vindication, sensing that the balance of power is tipping. This power shift also symbolizes A broader theme of the story: the triumph of truth and integrity over prejudice and abuse of power. The woman, once belittled and ignored, now stands supported not just by words but by undeniable proof and influential allies. The judge's dismissive facade cracks, revealing the limitations of his bias and the necessity for justice to prevail. Importantly, this part humanizes the woman even further. Her resilience and dignity become apparent to all in the courtroom as she stands quietly but confidently beside her advocate. The tears that once elicited scorn now gain new meaning as a testament to her strength and the injustice she has endured. The courtroom, once a place of humiliation for her, starts to feel like a place where her voice might finally be heard and respected. The power shift also introduces tension and uncertainty. The judge, though challenged, still holds legal authority and can influence the outcome. His response to this confrontation will shape the story's climax and resolution. This uncertainty keeps the audience engaged, eager to see whether justice will ultimately be served or if entrenched bias will prevail. In summary, Part 4 is the dramatic turning point where the woman's fight is no longer ignored. The unexpected. A rival's intervention forces the judge and the courtroom to reckon with the truth. This shift in power sets the stage for justice to be restored and empowers the protagonist to reclaim her dignity and rights. It is the crucial moment where the story moves from despair to hope, from marginalization to recognition. The emotional and narrative climax of the story, where the efforts of the young black woman and her unexpected ally come to fruition and justice begins to be served. This section is about the restoration of dignity, the correction of wrongs, and the recognition of truth that had been previously dismissed or ignored. Following the power shift in Part 4, the courtroom atmosphere is charged with a sense of renewed seriousness and fairness. The judge, no longer able to dismiss the woman's pain or the facts presented, is compelled to reconsider his earlier stance. He acknowledges, at least implicitly, that his behavior and assumptions were inappropriate, signaling the beginning of a change in how the court will handle the case. The woman's lawyer, now bolstered by the new evidence and the support of the influential figure who entered the courtroom, makes a strong, clear argument for why the woman's case deserves justice. The narrative here highlights the strength and clarity of their advocacy, contrasting sharply with the earlier dismissal and laughter. This advocacy helps shift the court's perception, focusing attention on fairness, legality, and empathy. Importantly, the woman herself becomes more than just a tearful figure. Her voice grows stronger. She speaks with renewed confidence, bolstered by the validation she has received. The courtroom witnesses her not only as a plaintiff or defendant, but as a human being who deserves respect and fairness. Her personal story, previously overshadowed by the judge's mockery, now resonates powerfully within the courtroom walls. The judge, faced with the undeniable facts and the woman's compelling testimony, makes a ruling or directs the court toward a fair resolution. This may mean overturning a previous decision, dismissing wrongful charges, granting custody, or recognizing her civil rights in a way that affirms her dignity. The specific outcome depends on the story's context, but the essential element is that justice is served. This moment is deeply cathartic. The woman experiences a profound sense of vindication and relief, knowing that her struggle was not in vain. Her tears transform from signs of weakness into symbols of perseverance and ultimate triumph. The courtroom, which once felt like a place of humiliation, becomes a space of justice and recognition. This part of the story also sends a broader message about the importance of allies, truth, and perseverance in confronting systemic injustice. It shows that even deeply entrenched biases can be challenged and overturned when people refuse to accept unfairness silently. The unexpected arrival's intervention proves that courage and support can make a difference in seemingly hopeless situations. The audience witnesses a transformation not just in the legal outcome but also in the human spirit. The woman's journey reflects a universal desire for dignity and fairness, inspiring hope for others who face similar struggles. The story suggests that justice is possible, even in imperfect systems, when truth and empathy prevail. Moreover, the judge's reaction during this moment can be complex. He might express reluctant respect or quietly acknowledge the need to reconsider his biases. This nuance adds depth to the story, showing that personal growth and accountability are possible, even for those initially blinded by prejudice. In essence, Part 5 delivers the emotional payoff of the narrative. It reaffirms the woman's humanity, the power of justice, and the impact of courage and advocacy. This part reassures the audience that despite obstacles and setbacks, standing up for what is right can lead to meaningful change. The emotional and thematic resolution of the story, wrapping up the narrative while offering a deeper reflection on the events that have transpired. After the intense courtroom drama and the hard-won victory in Part 5, this section focuses on the consequences and the lasting impact of the trial on the young black woman, the judge, and the broader themes of justice and societal change. Woman, having secured justice or a fair outcome, leaves the courtroom with a sense of dignity and renewed strength. The relief she feels is profound, not only because the legal battle is over, but because she has been seen and heard in a system that once sought to dismiss her. Her tears have transformed from symbols of pain and humiliation into powerful marks of resilience and triumph. She walks out supported by her lawyer, her unexpected ally, and perhaps friends or family who have stood by her throughout the ordeal. This scene is poignant, underscoring the importance of community and support in overcoming adversity. The aftermath also highlights how this experience has changed her outlook. While the victory is significant, it is not the end of her journey. She is now more empowered and confident to face future challenges, knowing that standing up for her rights can lead to change. This part of the story conveys hope and encouragement for anyone who feels marginalized or powerless, emphasizing that perseverance can break down even the most entrenched barriers. Meanwhile, the judge's reflection becomes a crucial element of this final part. Behind the scenes, away from the public eye, he contemplates his conduct during the trial and the confrontation that challenged his authority. The story explores his internal conflict, perhaps feelings of shame, defensiveness, or reluctant acknowledgement of his biases. This moment of introspection is important because it humanizes the antagonist, showing that even those who wield power imperfectly are capable of growth. The judge's reflection may lead to a subtle but meaningful change in his behavior. He might begin to approach future cases with greater empathy and awareness of the systemic inequalities present in the justice system. This development adds depth to the story, suggesting that personal accountability and transformation are possible when confronted with undeniable truths beyond the individuals directly involved. Part 6 also touches on the wider implications of the case. The courtroom drama may inspire conversations about racial bias, fairness in the legal system, and the need for reform. The woman's story becomes a symbol of resistance and hope for others facing similar struggles, reinforcing the idea that individual acts of courage can have ripple effects beyond a single case. The narrative may close with a reflective or hopeful tone, perhaps a quiet moment where the woman looks ahead to the future, or a final image of the courtroom emptying, symbolizing change and progress. The story leaves the audience with a message about dignity, justice, and the power of standing up against injustice. No matter how daunting the odds. In summary, Part 6 is about healing, growth, and the ongoing fight for equality. It offers closure, while reminding us that true justice is not just a single event, but a continuous journey. This ending resonates emotionally, reinforcing the story's themes and leaving the audience inspired.